So, we're going to quickly just go over what we learned from chapter 1 of Mishnah Brachot about Kriyat Shema. So, here was the passage that we looked at, the Shema itself. We read through, we know that it has sort of the general spiritual meaning of how do you go about loving God. We also know that we get specific commandments and practices from the words of the passage. Okay, now chapter 1 of the Mishnah focused on, well, in general so far we focused on these two phrases. In chapter 1, uveshochbecha, uvukumecha, when you lie down, when you get up. And in the second chapter, the phrase Shema Yisrael, right? Hear Israel. Okay? So we're going to focus on the second one, B'shochbecha uvkumecha. Now, the first Mishnah, Me matai korin et Shema be'arvit. From when do we say it? It starts with from the time the priests come in from work, and then 3 answers to the end point through the first shift of the night, the first third of the night. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, that's Rabbi Eliezer's view. Chachamim's view, ad chatzot, midnight. Rabban Gamliel's view, until dawn. Okay. Now, first of all, notice that is focusing on the word uveshochbecha. It is defining when is beshochbecha, when you lie down. And so it is discussing the times for Shema be'arvit, the evening Shema. Now, there's 2 different questions here. There's one answer to from when, from the time the priests come in from work to eat dinner, essentially from the time it gets too dark to work outside. But then there are 3 answers to until when. Okay? First third of the night, midnight, or dawn. So, in answering the question of when is B'shochbecha, or when is the evening Shema said, we have 1 answer for the beginning time, 3 for the ending time. Next Mishnah. Me'e matai korin et Shema b'shacharit. From when do we say it? In the morning. Now here we have from the time you can distinguish blue from white, and Rabbi Eliezer from the time you distinguish between different shades of blue. Okay, you finish it by sunrise. Rabbi Yoshua says ad shalosh shaot, 3 hours, which means 3 hours after sunrise, around 9 a.m., since princes don't wake up until shalosh shaot. So, here we see, first of all, we're focusing on the word uvekumecha. First Mishnah was b'shochbecha, evening Shema. Now bekumecha, morning Shema. Shema b'shacharit. Here we again have the same questions: from when and until when. All that's different is here we have 2 different views about from when you can say it, and 2 views about until when. The 2 views about from when. One seems to be a little earlier. Doesn't have to be quite as bright, quite as light out for you to distinguish blue from white. Probably has to get a little lighter to distinguish between different shades of blue. The big difference, though, is until when. The first view is that you finish it by sunrise. In other words, you have to say Kriyat Shema super duper early in the morning when the sun first rises, whenever that is. Rabbi Yeshua has a much, much more flexible view. And that seems to have to do with who's getting up we're talking about. Regular workers would get up in the rabbi's time at sunrise to get to work. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, the whole period when different types of people wake up is all okay for saying Shema. And therefore he gives us a much more flexible time. Okay. Third Mishnah. Here's where we get the background Mishnah. Beit Shammai Omrim, In the evening you lie down to read it. In the morning you stand because of those words. B'shochbecha, lying down. Kumecha, standing up. Behillel says you read it in any position because of belechtecha baderech. And he's really you playing on the word derech here, way, to mean in your own way. So you can read it however you want. Okay? Notice they're debating between this phrase, b'shach b'chav kumecha, versus this one, both of which are in the same verse. So Beit Shammai says there's a physical requirement. You actually act out these words. Beit Hillel says no physical requirement. Notice the difference from the Amida, where we do have a specific way that we're supposed to stand and bow, etc., when we say it. Okay. Now we get to the end of the Mishnah. Beit Hillel has said we don't learn the physical, any physical requirements from those words. So, imkein lama ne'emar ubeshach b'chav kumecha. What do those terms teach us? Beit Hillel's answer, which is the answer that we end up following, is bisha'a, at the time that people do these things. Right? So, okay. At the time that people do these things. Okay? So, b'shach b'chav kumecha teaches us time. Okay? This phrase doesn't tell us how to do it. It only tells us when to say it. Those are the three Mishnayot that we did in Parak Aleph. Review them well. Make sure you know them. I'll do a similar review of the stuff from the second Parak later.